Hi, Dr. Schultz here. I just wanted to reach out and say thank you to the many, many people who have visited our Heroes at Home Facebook page. We have over 2,000 folks who check in on us and who have liked us. I don't know how many people have actually read, but you continue to like and share, and that will grow. The only reason I want that to grow is because my mission is to help civilians understand law enforcement so that they can vote and comment and encourage and help with reform if necessary, and do so as an educated citizen and voter. We have a lot of support for law enforcement, and the vast majority of folks that tune in to Heroes at Home Facebook page are those who want to be encouraging to our first responders, police officers in particular. So, thank you for that. Thank you for being a good citizen. Now, I want you to understand the purpose of this page. Most of what I have done is to simply post the articles that I have written on Police One or on the National Police Association page, and those very thankfully get thousands of views on their original content. And I'm very happy to do that because it is part of my mission to help encourage first responders, and again, particularly in law enforcement, that's my background, and to educate the public. Let me tell you a little bit, if you're interested, in why I began this endeavor. I have been a teacher and trainer most of my law enforcement career. I have spent decades in law enforcement and a couple of decades in teaching. I continue to do training and appear at conferences around the country and teach online, and in addition to writing. And that started because of basically three different things. The earliest was I had a very good friend, an excellent partner, great police officer, one of the greats, really. And he had a couple of experiences that developed into post traumatic stress injury and got a diagnosis and got some treatment, went through some very, very difficult times as a result of that, but he came out strong at the end. And I remember thinking, man, if this guy who is just rock solid, physically strong, mentally strong, a person of faith, if this person can be vulnerable to the type of stress injury that can happen in the brain, which, by the way, is a physiological, biochemical issue. It's not just an emotional thing or you can't handle something. And so I began to get educated about PTSD and its effect on the law enforcement community. The second thing that happened is that shortly before taking my most recent police chief position, about a dozen years ago, I had an officer who had been involved in an officer involved shooting. That did not result in a fatal injury to the suspect, but in reviewing the file and dealing with the aftermath, I realized how poorly treated that police officer was. It was an absolutely justifiable shooting because I examined all of the evidence and all the statements and all the circumstances. But I realized I had to educate myself more on use of force issues and the aftermath for police officers. She was not treated well by her peers. She was not treated well by her administration prior to my arrival. And so the aftercare for that traumatic event was very inadequate, and it just wasn't fair to that officer. So I began to research how law enforcement, the community, and prosecutors respond to those kinds of incidents. The third thing is that a former student of mine started an organization to assist officers who had been wounded in the line of duty, whether PTSD or a more visible wound, those who were able to continue in the profession and those whose injuries caused them to have to leave the profession. And I was very privileged to be a chaplain for several years at a retreat for wounded officers and their spouses. And that was a super eye-opening experience to see how much sacrifice that these men and women and their families had undergone because they gave so much. A theme that I heard more than once by injured officers who had often been abandoned by the department, by their peers, um, by their insurance carriers, um, and just did not get the care and consideration that they should have. The comment that I've heard more than once is, it would have been better off if I had died in that assault or that attack, because then they would have gotten benefits, they would have gotten support, they would have gotten official resignation or recognition. But when you're wounded, sometimes you have agencies that will provide support and sometimes not. Sometimes you're just thrown away like a used up paper towel. And that really affected me. In addition to the inspiration that I gained from how these folks have come back, how they were rehabilitated, they found a new career, they found a new perspective, they found a new faith. Very inspiring. I've always known that I've worked with heroes. I looked up to my peers and those who've gone before, and those that I've trained um, with great admiration. I've just been so privileged and blessed to work among heroes. And I wanted to continue to help in whatever small way that I could to address some of the deficiencies in the care for our police officers as well as other first responders. And so one of the things that I did was to start this movement or this Facebook page, in addition to some seminars that I did on wellness called Heroes at Home, because one of the things that is imperative in the overall wellness of first responders is that we help families understand the nature of the job of the first responder and their family, and help to strengthen those bonds for a long and healthy career, or however long a career somebody wants to spend. I've also often told people, if you spend over 180 consecutive days in the military, if you're in the military for a year or 2 or 20, you get considered as a veteran and get veteran benefits. But if you're a police officer for 2 or 5 or 7 years and you decide to go someplace else, it's like, you left the profession, you're a non-cop, you're out of the fraternity. So I want to continue to encourage those who have given all or part of their lives in service to their community. So that's a little bit of the history and the purpose of the Heroes at Home page. Let's see, what else did I wanted to say? Oh, yeah. When you like and share, and I'm not a big promoter, I'm really just flabbergasted that we have over 2,000 folks that can visit my page, in addition to the number of people that happen to read my articles or who happen to be in the audience when I'm making a presentation. And again, it's my privilege. It has not been a moneymaker. It has been a work of love. And so when these messages, if you see that they have value, get out to others by liking and sharing what you see on the page, that's great, and I appreciate that. Another thing that I might ask is that if you would like to take time, perhaps in the comments underneath this video on the Facebook page, if you'd like to say who you are and what your interest is in the Heroes at Home Facebook page and some of the things that you see there, I would really love to hear from you, and so that we can become a little bit more of a community to those others who are reading the page and might want to hear about what your interest is. And I would really appreciate getting to know many of you better and a little deeper level. Another thing that I would invite you to do, I'll be adding a little bit more content and maybe some more of these types of videos. If you want to tune in, fine. If not, that's fine too. But if you would message me or in the comments say, Dr. Schultz, would you comment about education levels for police officers, or fitness, or why it takes so long for a police officer to detain me when they're writing a ticket or deciding to write a ticket, or how do we deal with the accusations of racial profiling? What are some responses so whatever you might want to know as a good citizen wanting to be informed, or you have a question about law enforcement process, procedure, and law. I'd be glad to address that in upcoming video or perhaps even a personal response to you. So I give you that invitation so that you can communicate with me other than just reading the stuff that I post. So another thing that I do, and I do so just for the opportunity for others to benefit, is to offer some things that I have that you can purchase that might be an encourager. One of the things that you can get from me for $5 is if you just want to message me and order a support quality law enforcement bumper sticker. You can get one of these for $5, and if you want additional ones, another $1 per bumper sticker if you want to hand these out or give them to somebody. And it will provide the public a little bit of knowledge about you that you support quality law enforcement. So you notice that we put the quality on there because that tells people not just, cops right or wrong or just a completely apologetic approach to policing, whether there's accusations of misconduct or not, but you support quality law enforcement. So that can be true for the reformer, for the Republican, for the Democrat, for people that are, unless you're just completely in favor of abolishing law enforcement, and we found out that that has not worked very well, even in its in little stages of defunding. Then that bumper sticker is something that you can use. And if you just want to have it, you don't have to put it on the back of your pickup truck or your Cadillac. But it might be something that you can just put in your den and consider from time to time. So there are some books that I have written and published. One of them is called The Badge and the Brain, Street Smart Force by Dr. J. Franklin Schultz. That's me. It's easier to say J. Franklin Schultz than Joel Schultz because there's a little bit of a glottal thing that happens there. And it is how to incorporate the knowledge of how the brain works in a more substantial way. It's an easy read, not terribly long, and I have found that it's been useful for trainers and for supervisors and for police officers and for family members to kind of understand what's going on in here. Why do we think this way? Why do we react this way? Why do we develop habits of certain types? So that might be something, and all of these books are $10. That includes the price of the book and shipping. Now, I have had these books in print for a long time. They're available on Amazon. If you'd like my signature on there or a greeting to somebody, if you want to give it as a gift to someone, or if you want to give it as a gift to a police department to have it in their training room or in their squad room for easy reading, then that's available. And another one that might be good for a gift or for a police department is a book I called Forward I Go, and it's mostly written by me with contributions by at the time Sergeant Daniel Duran. He was eventually captain and eventually retired, but I had seen some of the things that Dan had written and some poetry and some essays, and I asked him if he would mind having some of these things inserted in my book. And this is 366 readings, so it's a daily reading. I call this a great bathroom book. Very brief. The print's a little smaller than I'd like, but like I said, it's self-published, and so that's the way it came out. Still very readable, and I think you'll find that people appreciate that as a little bit of inspiration. And again, it's a great gift. It's a great thing to have in a squad room or training room or break room, or to give to somebody that you know and love who is in law enforcement. The third book that I'd like you to consider is called 15 Ways to Calm Your Mind Without Driving Yourself Crazy, subtitled Coping with Stress, Anxiety, and PTSD. Now, this isn't law enforcement specific, but it is very helpful to law enforcement. Again, a short book, not very complicated, just 15 chapters in kind of big print, talking about ways to cope with stress and some common sense strategies. So again, that would be good for anybody that wants to improve their lives a little bit by dealing with stress and learning a little bit about stress-related type injuries, anxiety, and a lot of the health consequences of that kind of brain activity because of our life circumstances. So it's great for cops, but it really is good for the general public as well. And again, great gift, great thing to donate to your local agency for a purchase price of $10. That includes shipping, and again, if you want those signed by me or to, ABC Police Department, happy to do that. And I have several of these in stock, so we can get them out fairly quickly. And again, not that it matters. I wouldn't mind making a little money off of this to kind of support my efforts, but I'm not. I give so many of these away to folks that I personally know, and sell them at a very low margin. So it's really a nonprofit. I'm not officially a nonprofit. It's just most of the things that I do end up being nonprofit. So those are some resources for you. Working on developing a challenge coin that would be a great encouraging gift. And so if you have an interest in that, kind of let me know. That's going to be a several $100 investment or upward to get a batch of challenge coins minted and delivered, custom coins. So if you think you might want something like that, then I'd appreciate some feedback, so that that might be helpful in helping me decide whether to move forward with that or not. All right. Well, thank you for spending some time with me. And again, thank you for visiting the page. And if you have any other questions, comments, or you'd like me to address something in a video or a story, if you have a story idea for me, then I'd be glad to hear it. So look forward to interacting with you, and thanks again for visiting Heroes at Home, a page for first responders, their families, and those that care about them.